The views expressed on the following program are those of its host and participants and in no way reflect those of the staff or management of WNRI.
This is Veterans News Radio, getting to the heart of Veterans Affairs. A program dedicated to unveiling the truth in a relentless pursuit of justice on behalf of veterans. Coming to you live from Rhode Island to the world with your host, High Speed Sal.
Good evening and welcome back, folks, to another Wednesday night, the 23rd day of March 2016. This is your co-host, Dennis. I'm filling in for Sal. He will be in a little bit later on in the show. This evening we have on a gentleman by the name of David Goodman. He'll be on at 1:15. Today in military history, 1983, President Ronald Reagan addresses the nation on his proposed plan for missile defense system, also known as the Star Wars program. For those of you that might be too young to remember this, I know it sounds a little far-fetched, but the plan was to eventually put in place a satellite around the Earth to pretty much use a high-yield laser and blast potential threats out of the sky. Never really took off the ground. A lot of people kind of mocked it as the Star Wars project and thinking that we're going to be building a Death Star. Also today in history, 1999, the 23rd day of March, 1999, was NATO Secretary General Javier Solana gave the formal go-ahead for unilateral airstrikes against Serbian targets following the failure of the Kosovo peace accord talks. Some of you, I know Sal remembers that. Kosovo and Bosnia were a big hotbed issue back in the mid to late 90s. This week, yesterday, as a matter of fact, we had a very tragic incident in Brussels, Belgium. Myself, as well as Sal and everybody else associated with Veterans News Radio, our hearts go out to those families of loved ones that were lost. A blatant attack against, in my opinion, personally my opinion, I think it was a blatant attack towards the United States. If I'm not mistaken, it was towards an American Airlines airport terminal and the subway going into said airport. So our hearts and prayers go out to all the people that were lost. In other recent events, just 2 days ago, Monday, March 21st, this broke from military.com as well as foxnews.com. Marines brace for mandatory sensitivity training. Where do I begin on this? The Marine Corps has been told by the Obama administration that they will be attending unconscious bias training in advance of the new ruling from Congress of women joining infantry roles. The seminar will focus on how people prejudge others based on factors like race and gender and principles of institutional change, military.com reports. Brigadier General James Glynn told Fox.com that there's no doubt we are leading cultural change. It's not the first time for the Marine Corps, but we like a challenge. We do like a challenge. However, I also agree with the retired Lieutenant Colonel Ralph Peters, who is also a military analyst for Fox News. All the time squandered on this stuff is time that you're not spending training for war. As we touched on a little bit last week before we came on, we touched on the vice commandant of the Marine Corps addressing Congress when asked about force readiness of the Marine Corps in its warfighting capability. And basically, we are not in a position to support another full-scale conflict. And now, on top of that, this week, to be told that, we can't be getting our force readiness back up. Right now, we need to focus more on sensitivity training. I mean, come on. I'm all for equality in the military. I'm all for women in frontline combat roles if they can so feel that they can fill that MOS billeting. However, I mean, as the aforementioned Lieutenant Colonel Peters said, and I quote, "If I could make one change to improve our combat effectiveness in the military, it would be turning all those equal opportunity and sensitivity trainers and counselors into combat riflemen." Quote, "We need more rifles. We do not need any more sensitivity." He furthered on to say that the desensitization of and the political correctness in the military has no role in combat, and this will certainly get Marines killed, both male and female. I could not agree more. I could not agree more. I mean, listen, if somebody is able and willing and more than capable of carrying out their job, I have absolutely no problem with it. In my opinion, and that's, again, just the opinion of this co-host, I do have a problem where we are giving billeted jobs to people that might not be as qualified as somebody else might be simply because of race or sex. Now, you can take that or leave it as you will, but if you can do the job, great. I have no problem with it. Not one whatsoever. I mean, anybody that's listening that was in the military knows that we don't see black, white, you know, we don't see colors, we don't see age or sex as an issue. We're all green inside. You know, we're all military. So anyway, so moving on from that, as I said earlier, we're going to be having a gentleman by the name of David Goodman on in a little while, right after this next commercial break. Mr. Goodman was stationed at Fort McClellan, and he's been having a lot of health issues, as well as many others that you have heard previously here on the show. He's going to be calling in at 1:15 or 20 after the hour, and we're going to hear a little bit more about the struggles that he's been going through and some of the fight that he's been taking back to them. So with that, we are going to go to a short break, and when we come back, I believe our host has just stepped into the building, so we will be hearing from him. Thank you, and stay tuned.
Veterans News Radio, brought to you by Midstate Gun Company, 1200 Tioga Avenue in Coventry, Rhode Island. A full-service firearms retailer for Rhode Island, offering a full line of firearms and accessories, from the industry classics to the latest innovations. They stock handguns, rifles, shotguns, and black powders, as well as accessories spanning from targets to cleaning supplies, cases to storage, ammo, mags, loaders, and Midstate also buys, consigns, and trades firearms. And now Midstate Gun Company proudly presents to you Rhode Island's first public indoor firing range, including 12 25-yard rifle and pistol lanes. Midstate Gun Company has RSOs, handgun, rifle, and shotgun qualified instructors, offering instructed range time, basic and advanced firearm classes, and free blue card testing. Whether you are new to the sport or a serious competitor, stop by Midstate Guns, 1200 Tioga Avenue, Coventry, Rhode Island. Call 401-615-0669 or email info@midstateguns.com. They'll be there with the help you need. Midstate Gun Company, proud sponsor of Veterans News Radio.
Hey.
Hi.
This game's supposed to be in Iraq. Is this what it looked like when you were over there?
Sort of.
Shoot, I died. I'll shut it off, okay?
Okay.
Grandpa called earlier.
Mm-hmm.
So, you want to watch TV?
Either way.
When a vet comes home, the silences can be deafening. You may not know what to say, but we can help start the conversation. Visit supportyourvet.org. A public service message brought to you by Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America and the Ad Council.
Let me ask you a question. When you think of the American Legion, what comes to mind? Is it the way we fight daily for our veterans to get them the benefits they've earned through their service?
I work hard every day to make sure that our veterans get the benefits they deserve. I am the American Legion.
For nearly 100 years, the American Legion has been our nation's leading advocate for veterans and their families.
I am the American Legion.
This is today's American Legion.
To learn more, visit legion.org.
Let me ask you a question. When you think of the American Legion, what comes to mind? Is it our volunteer programs that let wounded veterans know they're not forgotten?
I'm here to make sure our heroes know their sacrifice is not forgotten. I am the American Legion.
For nearly 100 years, the American Legion has been our nation's leading advocate for veterans and their families.
I am the American Legion.
This is today's American Legion.
To learn more, visit legion.org.
I'm Bill. I'm a Vietnam veteran, and I was homeless.
I'm Anna, an Army veteran and recently homeless.
My name is William. I'm a U.S. Army vet, and I was homeless. These veterans, including myself, have homes thanks to local landlords and property owners. Please help us find homes for hundreds of others who have answered the call of duty. If you are a landlord or property owner and have rental vacancies, visit ahomeforeveryvet.net to find out how you can help.
Good evening and welcome back to Veterans News Radio on 1380 AM WNRI. Just got this passed across the desk. Corner Bakery Cafe in Wakefield, Rhode Island will be hosting a benefit night next week on the 30th from the hours of 4 to 9 p.m. for Vets Count Rhode Island. Each restaurant will be donating 20% of the sales to benefit veterans, service members, and their families. In addition, local heroes, veterans of all eras will be on hand to help and serve guests. Corner Bakery Cafe locations can be found at 140 Hillside Road, Cranston, 21 Universal Boulevard in Warwick, and 11 East Main Street in Middletown. To view a complete menu, please visit www.cornerbakerycafe.com. And as always, you can reach us at veteransnewsradio.com as well as poisonveterans.org. We are joined with our host, Sal is in. Welcome.
I am.
Good evening.
It's not me.
Welcome back.
Yeah.
Heard there was some heavy flow issues on the highway this evening.
Well, between that and between stuff going on at the State House, yeah, but, you know.
Oh, big night last night, too.
Yeah, I'm surprised I survived.
Thankfully, all the bills have been curbed. For those that you are not from the Rhode Island area.
Well, they really haven't been curbed. They were put into study.
Right. But they're going to be going on vacation for summertime pretty soon.
Yeah.
Sometime in June, I believe, the middle of June.
Yeah, that's how that works.
For those that aren't familiar with Rhode Island laws,
you know,
there was a lot of gun bills out last night.
The funny thing, and I'm sure veterans will get a kick out of this.
Mm-hmm.
Mothers demand action.
Yeah.
I had a little bit of an argument with one last night who I believe she was a New Yorker.
Oh, boy.
I mean, these people come from everywhere.
So wait a minute. Let me get this straight. So laws that do not affect New York, laws that affect Rhode Island citizens, laws that effectively make law-abiding citizens in Rhode Island instantly criminals overnight, isn't that almost an act of interstate subversion? To be coming from New York when the laws do not affect New York?
I don't know.
To be hearing testimony and giving testimony and voting on something that doesn't affect you?
I don't know.
Isn't that subversion?
It's something.
I mean, if it was an immigrant coming, like when we had the case of a certain English news reporter a couple of years back after the Sandy Hook incident, the unfortunate Sandy Hook incident, you know, I'm just going to say his name. It's Pierce.
Pierce Morgan.
Yeah, Pierce Morgan.
Oh, the guy that we wanted deported.
The guy that said that he would deport himself if we did not
and why
vote
didn't he?
Well, again, how is he even in this country? That's an act of subversion, a foreign national that's trying to change our constitutional rights.
Well, anyway, this is how this went last night. The lady's complaining about how her son got murdered by a firearm. Okay, well, it wasn't a firearm. It could have been something else as well.
So,
hold it. It gets more interesting than this.
So the person that killed her son didn't kill him? It was the gun that did it.
Whatever. This gets more interesting. This gets very, very interesting. Turned around and excuse me. Yeah, except the both of us. I've been talking too much these past couple of days. Sorry, guys.
Oh, we know that.
Anyway, shut up before I pay you to shoot yourself.
Okay.
Okay, we got that one now. Anyway,
wait. Can I then be part of the mother's demand action? If I were to shoot myself?
You're not a woman.
No, then I'd have to join the different club, the John Kerry demands action.
Okay, whatever it is. Anyway, she said that, her son was murdered. And it goes on and on from there. Basically, the way it went was I asked her a specific question. I said to her, geez, I'm really sorry for your loss, but what happened? And she started to talk to me. Of course, this is out in the hallway. She started talking to me, and I said to her, well, I mean, what went on? What was your son doing at the time? What, you know me, I want to know everything. And I guess it was a drug deal gone bad. And I'm like, lady, really? I didn't say that to her. I mean, obviously, she did lose her son.
Which is tragedy unto itself, but she has to realize that at least 60% of that is to blame on him.
Well,
in a drug deal gone bad.
If not even more. And I was like, where were you when he was growing up? She kind of left crying. I'm sorry, but you know me. I'm going to ask. And I'm certainly not going to be politically correct about it. Anyway, other than that's about all that happened with that.
So, I know you weren't in the station yet, but a little earlier we touched on yesterday's unfortunate events in Belgium.
Yeah.
To which, in my personal opinion, and I believe that you might be of the same opinion, it almost foreshadows the 1983 bombing at the airport embassy in Beirut. I believe that this was a direct attack targeted towards the United States.
No, we already know that. I mean, the U.S. Embassy was there.
Right.
American Airlines just happened to be the terminal they hit. Let's think about this. I mean...
Right. It's very foreshadowing to the unfortunate day back in 1983 with the Beirut bombing. I know there were several Rhode Islanders, one of which that I know very well that was stationed there. Fortunately was, fortunate enough to come home. And then we also touched on the mandatory sensitivity training for the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on that? I know we went over this yesterday when I told you about it.
It's funny because yesterday I met a couple of Israeli Defense Force women. They're ready for everything and anything.
Right. Well, Israeli Defense Force is always ready for stuff.
Yeah. Unfortunate, too, what those people go through sometimes.
I mean, they've basically been in perpetual war for the last 70 years.
Yes, they have. They're trying to make the Marine Corps a bunch of pansies, as far as I'm concerned. I don't know what else to say. I mean, come on.
Well, I mean, that's what the lieutenant colonel, the former Army lieutenant colonel, had said. He's the military advisor to Fox News, just to recap. He said there's no points for political correctness in combat. This insanity will get Marines killed, both male and female. Again, I couldn't agree more. There's other sides to it, saying to quote a female colonel, Ann Weinberg, she's on the other side of the coin, saying that the United States military gives billeted jobs more likely than not to guys than to women. Again, I don't particularly see that, unless, of course, it is in the case of if they are able to do this said job. You know, I mean, I don't mean to bring up a sore subject, but let's harken back to, what was it, Sal, the early 90s when the Navy was trying to fill roles and they put a female into the cockpit of an F-14 that was not satisfied with her training. She was not ready to be in a cockpit of an F-14.
Right.
And what happened there? She
Oops.
crashed into the back of the aircraft carrier.
Yeah.
Because she did not, I mean, out of all the students in her flight training class, she was probably 15th on the list to actually get to fixed wing double engine
Did you
jet.
ever think they maybe wanted her to fail? There was a little bit of talk about that at the time.
But the point of what I'm getting at is that I don't particularly see where billeting in jobs is going to be affected by these new laws from Congress of women in frontline combat roles. So why is it that, I mean, we have a colonel here that's in favor of this, saying that we need more sensitivity training.
Where's the colonel from?
Didn't say where she was from. Her name is Colonel Ann Weinberg.
Branch.
Doesn't say that either. Colonel Ann Weinberg.
Wow.
So,
wow.
I don't know. Should be interesting to see what develops in the next couple weeks.
She might be a psychologist. You know those people.
Well.
Anyway, I think we have a caller on the line, a guest. Hey, welcome to VNR. You're on the air.
All right, how are you?
We're doing good. Is this David?
Yes, it is.
Hi, good evening.
How are you?
David, that's my co-host, Devil Dog Dennis.
How you doing, Dennis?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Good, good. Hanging in there.
So, we both know we've got a lot in common.
Yes, sir.
Tell us a little bit about your story. I mean, I know Dennis did mention some stuff, so...
Yeah, well, I was in Fort McClellan December of 83 through April of 84. And later on, went to get stationed at the 164th in Miso. So we kind of got the double whammy there, the chemicals of Fort McClellan and then the radiation over in the 164th. Anyway, after my service, I, just worked out here in Tucson in Arizona. And about a couple of years ago, I decided to look up some of my Army buddies. And I just decided to, look up Fort McClellan. And some of my Army buddies said, "Hey, man, they closed Fort McClellan down," which I didn't know. And they said, "Yeah, chemical contamination." So I look it up. Come to find out, it would just hit me, like a ton of bricks. That's when everything clicked, and when I find out that everybody else has pretty much the same symptoms with the degenerative disc disease, spots on your skin, the hypertension, chronic pain.
Yeah.
I ended up having a spinal fusion surgery, fix some of my bones there in my lumbar area, and I became disabled in 2010. And after I got on Facebook and I found a few groups that are going through the same thing, then we kind of compared notes and come to find out we all pretty much have about 70% of the same symptoms. So that's where I stand now.
All right, got you. Now, I understand. In fact, let's see if Dennis can pull up that video. Maybe we can play it for everybody, at least the audio part of it. You were on the news. I mean, recently. When was that?
They interviewed me. It was in December. They did the interview in December, and the reporter did a real good job. He was real thorough. He talked to congressmen, and he did a lot of research. and it just aired the 17th of this month. It was last Thursday.
Okay.
And
now, I know that they also did the people will hear it too, but they did a release of information for you.
Yes.
And no one's gotten back in touch with them.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, we filled out the release of information so he can get a little bit more information on what's going on with me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's actually what was holding us up. He wanted to air it about a week or two before, and he says, let's try to give him some more time, for the VA to release this information. And it just never happened. And he said, well, we're going to have to just do the story without it. So that's where we stand now.
So, I'm trying to get the audio up right now, but the reporter had also spoken about how you have your local congressmen that are putting in different bills that haven't even been heard yet. Is that correct?
Yeah. What happened was Congressman Grijalva, I told him about, it was back when it was 411.
Mm-hmm.
Brought up the 411, and then again the 2622. And so I've written to him a couple of times, and I tell him about, the Fort McClellan vets, how we're poisoned, want him to co-sponsor it. Mm-hmm. And when he replies, which took him months to reply, he replies and he comes up with something totally different. I mean, he was answering questions that I didn't even ask. I had to do the same with Senator McCain. I did the same thing with him. I sent him some. I've gone back and forth a few times with McCain.
Right.
Dave, we actually have the news report pulled up. It was actually posted on 3/17 of last week, as you said, from your local Fox 11. Let's take a listen to that for the viewers.
Okay.
We've heard so many stories about problems with care at the VA. The scandal that went nationwide started right here in Arizona. But tonight, only on Fox 11, I investigated a little bit of a different situation. I spoke to a local vet who says he hasn't had trouble getting in to see doctors, but the docs, the VA, and our government won't even try to figure out what is causing all of his problems.
That wages...
It is a slap in the face now. I mean, we put our lives on the line for the country, and this is how they pay us back.
David Goodman says it's the VA and his own government slapping him and his fellow vets in the face. From his home in Rio Rico, he told me a myriad of conditions, both mental and physical, have battered and bruised his body and mind for years.
I'm in 24/7 pain.
Goodman believes he's one of many vets dealing with the same kind of medical nightmares for the same reason.
I'm in contact with him.
To keep our community safe.
That reason is Fort McClellan. It was an Army post in Alabama that closed back in 1999 after being used for over 70 years. And it was a chemical weapons testing ground for decades. David and a growing number of vets around the country who served at Fort McClellan feel their bodies were exposed to toxins.
There's so much evidence already.
How is that in the now?
And there's EPA reports, environmental quality reports, the Department of the Army. We trained there. We rolled in the mud. We drank the water. We cooked our food in it. We showered in it. This is what's happening to us.
I looked through reams of documents. The EPA deemed Fort McClellan a Superfund site, meaning the government admits it needs to get cleaned up because of contamination. There are reports showing issues with contamination on different parts of the base, in the soil, and in the water. On the VA's own website, it admits people who served at the fort were exposed to toxins, but the VA claims the exposure was not enough to cause any major problems. So it has rejected David's disability claims.
It took 6 to 8 months for them to give me an answer. They denied it. We did the appeal, another 6 months or so for them to send me this again, which is again another denial.
I reached out to the VA to try to get answers about David's situation in particular and the entire situation at Fort McClellan in general. I spent about a month. Emails back and forth. I even had David fill out this waiver that allowed the VA to discuss his particular situation with me. The VA promised me answers, but ultimately delivered none. And
promised answers and delivered none. Wow, that kind of sounds familiar, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. Okay, before I blow my top here, in a way, I'm kind of glad to see it's not just me going through this.
And I'm glad to see that.
And in a way, I'm very
news
saddened that
coverage.
you're going through this.
But I am glad to see that it's getting national news coverage on a syndicated show such as Fox.
Yeah. It was also on CBS in Tucson. It was Fox and CBS. They're like a sister station.
Right.
And they go back and forth. So it played on Fox 11 and CBS 13 in Tucson.
So now you're on your second appeal with the VA. Is that correct, David?
Yeah.
And what is their reasoning for the denials?
They're just saying that there's no link between what I have in Fort McClellan. There is no link.
No, there's a link. They just keep blocking all the medical research and the science that's behind it.
Right. Exactly.
Okay, so here's the question of the century. What are we going to do about it?
I wish I had that answer.
Well, I kind of do, but then they'll come in and arrest me.
Yeah.
Listen, we've been fighting. We've been sending letters. We've been doing petitions. We've been doing all this stuff. It's not going to go anywhere. Not that way. Right. We need a little bit of unity.
Yeah.
Not a little bit, actually, a lot of unity. That's the other problem, too, with all you mentioned the Facebook groups earlier. A lot of them are not. We're not all unified.
Exactly.
I mean, they're going whatever way they can. I know I can speak for myself. I've been to Washington myself, even up to 3 weeks ago. Personally, knocking on doors, trying to kick down doors if they wouldn't open them. I have been somewhat successful at that, but it always goes to one point and one point only. I'm the only person doing this down there. They're not going to really listen.
Right.
You know, we need to get a collective together. We need to get a collective. We need to go down there and knock on doors while they're still in session, not on weekends, not on anything like that. People say, oh, they want to protest and everything else. That's not the way it works.
Right.
You have to do it. You have to hit them. You have to hit them hard. And you have to hit them when they're there. And then you have a small contingent go into the buildings and go knocking on all the office doors and saying, hey, we've got these problems. What are you guys going to do for us?
Exactly.
I mean, yeah. You have all sorts of other organizations that do this stuff. Why don't we?
Yeah.
So, Dave, I've got to ask, have you been able to get any kind of outside care, whether from Social Security or Medicare or your own private insurance? Have you been able to see outside doctors for your issues? I know in that article you said you were in constant pain.
Yeah, I'm seeing the VA now.
Okay.
Before they didn't want to do my surgery. They actually didn't even want to. They didn't even want to do an MRI on me.
Really?
And it took, the VA. All they would do was give my pain meds.
Now, why wouldn't they want to do regular quality of life care? Is it simply because? I mean, is it because? Did they say because it's not service connected as of yet?
Well, see, at that time, I didn't know about Fort McClellan, about the contamination there. I just thought, I just had bad health. My back was going out on me. And I gave up on the VA because they just didn't want to even do an MRI. They didn't want to do the x-rays. They didn't want to do the MRIs. I guess it was a money thing. So I went on the outside and saw some of the doctors that did the MRIs. And it took me going outside of the VA to get my surgery. Well, after I became disabled, I had no choice. I didn't have any more insurance. So I'm on Medicare, and the VA is all I have now. So I'm back at the VA, and I'm pretty much the same thing now. Pain meds,
I mean,
You know?
you found out about Fort McClellan while you were outside the VA getting private care. Is that correct?
Yes.
Have any of your outside doctors been able to accredit and or link these conditions to more, as the wording would say, and Sal can back this up, the more likely than not toxic exposure?
Not really. No, I actually, I mean, I wasn't very informed at that time, you know, back then. Just recently, I spoke to my doctor here at the VA. We're talking about my neuropathy in my legs. And he told me that, I mean, it was off the record, but he told me that that was pretty, that could be attributed to a chemical contamination.
Right.
You know, and
you got to get letters.
Right.
You got to get letters. Yeah, got to get letters. I mean, the VA loves Nexus letters.
Now, you said you just got in contact with some of these buddies that you were with down at Fort Mac. Have any of them been going through these issues as well, or have they been able to, you know, thankfully get away from these medical issues?
Well, there's about 4 or 5 that I'm in contact with that do have some of these same issues that I have. And I mean, I don't know what. Most of the ones that I talk to on Facebook are they go to the VA too. So I mean, they're pretty much in the same boat.
Right. Well, it sounds to me like getting some of you guys together for Nexus letters and buddy letters is going to be another helping step in your fight against this. I'm very sorry to hear that, you know, you guys have to go through this.
Right.
Anyway, David, we're going to take a quick break, but if you want to stay around, we will be back in a couple minutes, and we can continue on.
Yes, sir.
We'll be right back with Veterans News Radio on 1380 WNRI.
Looking for, they have many different styles and prints that can be ordered. So come check them out. Rhode Island Uniform and Supply Company, 1395 Atwood Avenue, Suite 109 in Johnston, Rhode Island. Open Monday 9 to 8 and Tuesday through Friday 9 to 5 p.m. Closed on weekend. Rhode Island Uniform and Supply, Johnston, Rhode Island, proud sponsor of Veterans News Radio.
Let me ask you a question. When you think of the American Legion, what comes to mind? Is it the way we fight daily for our veterans to get them the benefits they've earned through their service?
I work hard every day to make sure that our veterans get the benefits they deserve. I am the American Legion.
For nearly 100 years, the American Legion has been our nation's leading advocate for veterans and their families.
I am the American Legion.
This is today's American Legion.
To learn more, visit legion.org.
In a recent study, it was estimated that of the 300,000 U.S. veterans returning from the Middle East, that nearly 20% will experience post-traumatic stress disorder. And with the suicide rate being 3 times higher than the general population, an average of 18 will commit suicide each day. Although they have endured the battle abroad, for many veterans, the real fight begins upon their return home. Now more than ever, they need our help. To learn more on how you can volunteer at your local VA hospital, go to volunteer.va.gov.
Rhode Island Uniform and Supply at 1395 Atwood Avenue, Suite 109 in Johnston, Rhode Island is Southern New England's center for police, fire, tactical, and outdoor apparel. Winter items are now on sale throughout the month of March. Great savings of 20% off all in-stock winter items right now. Nursing scrubs are now in stock as well. And if you don't see what you're looking for, they have many different styles and prints that can be ordered. So come check them out. Rhode Island Uniform and Supply Company, 1395 Atwood Avenue, Suite 109 in Johnston, Rhode Island. Open Monday 9 to 8 and Tuesday through Friday 9 to 5 p.m. Closed on weekend. Rhode Island Uniform and Supply, Johnston, Rhode Island, proud sponsor of Veterans News Radio.
Good evening and welcome back to Veterans News Radio on 1380 WNRI. Join with us is David Goodman from Arizona. David, you still there?
Yes, sir.
All right. Sorry, but we have to take a quick commercial break. Got to pay the bills.
That's right.
So I'm interested to find out, how did you go about getting news coverage on your local station, Fox 11?
Well, after I found out about everything that was going on, I mean, it just, I was pretty mad. I mean, that we're all being ignored, and I just decided that I'm going to write all the news stations. Actually, I wrote all the major news stations in Tucson and in Phoenix. I wrote to every major newspaper in the state. I contacted all the congressmen here, contacted Senator McCain, and every time news stories on Facebook would come up, anything about the VA, I would comment saying, there's a travesty happening to these former McClellan veterans, and then I would just start the story. And one day, one of the reporters says, "Hey, what are you talking about?" And I said, "Well, this is what's going on." So we started private messaging, and that's how it came about. Actually, the ABC station was interested first, and I don't know what happened there. They kind of lost interest, I guess, and I kind of gave up on them. And the Fox station, I did the same thing with them. Every time the VA story would come up, I would comment the same thing about Fort McClellan, and they decided to do the story. And the ABC station is again interested now that we've been on the other station. It looks like I might be able to get another interview with the ABC station here in Tucson.
Now, as you stated before, you contacted Senator McCain's office. Is that correct?
Yes.
He's your local representative there obviously for the state on a congressional federal level. Also military. I'm interested, what was his response, if any? I mean, he's on if I'm not mistaken, he was on the Armed Services Committee. Obviously a veteran. Where's his stance on all of this?
Well, he brings up the contamination for veterans' families. I would talk about the veterans that were contaminated, and he would bring up the other bill that's there that he co-sponsored, something about the children and grandchildren of affected vets. So he hasn't really talked too much about affected veterens, but more their families, kids and grandkids.
No, is
and
he...
I just got...
I'm sorry, is his bill that he's co-sponsoring, is that focused on Agent Orange of the Vietnam era, or is that specifically for Fort Mac?
No, it's not for Fort McClellan at all. It's just
just toxic exposure for...
secondary. Toxic exposure. Kids and grandkids of affected vets. And actually, I just got a response from him 2 days ago.
Okay.
And he said the same thing. I've written to him about our situation, the Fort McClellan veterans that were affected. And it's twice that he answers me back with the family of affected veterans. So I again, told him, can you please address the veterans that were affected? I said, I know that it is important that the children and grandchildren of poisoned veterans is important, but can you please address the actual veterans?
When you say he got back to you, I find that interesting. When you say he got back to you twice now, he's gotten back to you. Did he get back to you via phone call or email?
Oh, email.
Okay. To have the same response twice in a row sounds like it's in my personal opinion, maybe I'm reading into this wrong, but it sounds to me like it's just a scapegoat, pacify this guy and throw him a generated email that we already had.
Exactly.
To be sent the same email twice.
Well, it's not the exact same, but it is, it's pretty much, the same.
It's almost like a cut and paste
He's answering a different question, and he's answering it the same way, but it's different wording, and it's...
right.
But yeah.
Now, has anybody from that Fox News Station 11 gotten back to you as far as any kind of feedback from the VA? I know further on in the clip there, they talk about how you signed a waiver of agreement for release of information, which you have to do for anybody, including your own spouse.
Right.
And yet they hadn't gotten back to them. Has there been any follow-up from that specific reporter?
No, I haven't heard anything back. What he did tell me that Congressman McSally wanted me to contact her office.
Okay.
And which I did.
Mm-hmm.
And I contacted her on Friday, and it come to find out that she just co-sponsored the HR 2622 on Monday.
Okay. Do you want to tell the listeners a little bit of what that HR bill is for?
Yeah, HR 2622. It's a bill that we're requesting a health registry to help identify any vets that were stationed at Fort McClellan who may have been potentially exposed to chemicals there. And it's they want to make a list to be able to inform us of anything, any kind of in any way they can help us, research, treatment. But it's stuck there because from what I hear, they're saying it's just going to cost too much money to inform everybody.
That was their official, quote unquote, their official standpoint on it. It's going to cost too much money to pretty much just have an analyst type into a computer everybody who's ever made roll call. I mean, how hard could that be over a 70-year span? I mean, the records are there. Right. We know who was there.
Right.
I mean, if I'm not mistaken, the registry bill, the health registry bill, has gone in under several different names. HR 411 was one of them.
Right.
That obviously stalled and went nowhere.
Right.
It's almost as if they just hope putting it on the back burner is just going to make it die out. And all it does is fuel the fire more because it's still an ever-present issue.
Right.
So,
and I think when it was 411, I think it had like 90 co-sponsors or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just...
Yeah, HR 411 was big. Unfortunately, it didn't seem to go anywhere.
Right.
But as we know, a rose by any other name. So now, do you have children that are feeling effects from this as well, or?
Well, I have one daughter that she's had spinal problems since she was little, and the curvature of her spine.
Spina bifida.
It's not really bad, but it's there.
Okay, now that's a real big talking point. I wish we had more time. We're actually coming up towards the end of the show, but with spina bifida, if I'm not mistaken, the VA has that as the only presumptive exposure to Agent Orange and dioxin poisoning. Have you tried going that route avenue with the VA yet to try to get your daughter health care?
No, we haven't.
Because I believe spina bifida is the only presumptive case. I mean, obviously, there's hundreds of different symptoms that children and even grandchildren are feeling from dioxins and TCEs and PCBs. But you might want to look into that because spina bifida is a presumptive issue from dioxin exposure. And our thoughts and prayers go out to your family and your daughter.
Thank you so much.
Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that, guys. Had to go take care of something real quick. 'Tis the season and an election year, so I get calls every once in a while that I have to take. Anyway, I couldn't help but over here you have a problem with your child.
Yes.
In the beginning of the segment of the conversation, you talked about you also being somewhere else where there was radiation. When you were at Fort Mac, what was your MOS?
95 Bravo.
All right, so you were MP as well. Are you aware that the MP school was sitting on a hot cell?
We had no idea. I didn't know anything about any of that.
Right, but are you aware of it now?
Oh, yeah. Now I am, yeah.
All right. The man ways as well, where we did, push-ups and sat on the ground and everything else. They dug that down 12 feet.
Wow.
Just to get rid of everything. And it's ludicrous. In fact, I just lost my thyroid last year over this. Last year and a half at this point now. But anyway, look, we're getting screwed. Plain and simple.
But if he can get his daughter into the VA, and again, this is just my opinion, but if he can get in under the presumption of spina bifida in relation to dioxin,
but this is the point.
It might open the door.
I realize what you're saying, Dennis, but this is the point. They're going to say there was no Vietnam involved here.
But Agent Orange was buried.
It was tested. It was made outside the gates. It was stored there. It was everything.
I mean, let's face it.
But that's not
Monsanto
the point
paid
of it.
$700 million to Aniston.
VA and everybody else, DOD and everyone. Well, Monsanto paid $700 million for PCBs. It's somewhat of a derivative of dioxin, but it's not the same thing. It causes different things. But anyway, and what the problem with that'll be is the government will turn around and just blame it on big business, and they'll wash their hands. You know that as well as I do, Dennis. I mean, come on, we weren't born yesterday.
Yeah, big business that was hired by the government.
Yeah, well, it doesn't matter. That's the way they look at it.
I still see it as a possible opening, David. Anyway, I hate to cut this short. Would like to get you back on some point in the future to find out and follow up what's been going on and if anybody has gotten back to you from these news agencies as well as your congressman.
Please keep in touch.
Unfortunately, we are out of time for this evening. And I'd like to thank you for coming on this evening, Dave. And
thank you so much.
You have a great evening.
Brother.
You too. Thanks for having me, guys.
Be good, huh?
Thank you.
Take care.
Okay, bye-bye.
Okay. Well, I guess it's sign-off time.
Yep. It's that time again, folks. We'll be back next Wednesday night. Regular time, regular channel.
All right, anyway, what I'm going to tell all of you is what I usually tell everybody every single week. Watch your sixes. This just in from AP News, by the way, earlier today. The ISIS is sending in well over 400 more fighters into Europe. Just as it's happening in Europe, it could be happening here as well. So everybody watch your sixes. Be ready for anything. We've got the training. We know what to do. Unfortunately, it's going to fall on us. You wait and see. Love yous all. Talk to you soon. And have a kicking week, will yous? This is High Speed Sal.
And Double Dog Dennis.
We're signing off.
Good night.